Okay, hi, I'm Aleasha Bahr, and this is Introverted Entrepreneur Success Stories. I'm a sales coach for introverts, and I craft custom sales processes with you that allow you to sign up to 50%, over 50% of the people you talk to without pain pitching or pretending to be someone else. And the idea for this show came from people like you who have the desire to be an entrepreneur, but might let being an introvert hold you back or make you think you're not cut out for it. So we decided that it could be helpful to interview introverts who are entrepreneurs about their journey, their success, and how they feel about sales. Because we found that sales is an unavoidable part of entrepreneurship and often the reason introverts shy away from it. So joining us on the show today is Jennifer Urezzio. She's the founder of Soul Language, a paradigm that puts tangibility to soul so a conscious connection can be established to enable crystal clear decisions for success. Jennifer is also a master intuitive and the author of 2 best-selling books. Currently, she's trained over 30 practitioners worldwide in soul language, and there are over 5,000 individuals connecting to their soul languages. Thank you so much for coming, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, so excited to have you here and learn. I mean, you have a very interesting business, first of all, but also it's, something that speaks to a lot of introverts. I can see why you do it. Most introverts, I was having this discussion the other day with someone like, I think a lot of introverts, the majority, if not all, are sort of empathic. So honoring their soul is so important, like that feeling inside of fulfillment. You're more in tune with it, or you want to be more in tune with it. At least if you don't know how, it sounds like you can help them connect that. So I'm wondering, we talked about this a little bit, like what you did before and how you got into this.
Sure. I started off as a photographer and I got out of school and I was like, I don't want to do this. And I went into public relations and they're like, my boss got pregnant and they handed me a media list and a pitch letter and went, go to it. And what was really cool about being an introvert and being on the phone back then, because it was phone, right, was like, I could say or do anything. Like it didn't matter. Like it mattered, of course, because I wanted to secure placements for the clients. I wanted to secure them interviews with magazines, but it was like, hey, nobody knows me. I can just be. And that was really exciting. And I got the first national placement in Good Housekeeping for the new client, which was like 5 million people read that back then. And I was kind of hooked. And I just like, really, I think the difference between me and a lot of other introverts is I have warrior nature. So I'm an introvert, but when I decide to talk, it's like, make it so. And I crafted my job in marketing and PR to do exactly what I wanted to do. And then I knew that there was something bigger inside of me. I was really angry and I felt really unseen and unheard. And I think most introverts have that as well, and yet they want to kind of fade into the woodwork as well. And so I started pursuing this idea that there's something had to be bigger inside of me. And I met this woman who went, your life purpose is a powerful healer and teacher of service in the spotlight. And I went, totally got that. Totally resonates with me. What do I do with that? How do I find that? And I just kept asking questions. And I think it's another big thing with introverts. They're always asking those questions internally, and consciously those are expansion questions. Unconsciously it's like a really nasty record in your head of judgment and lack of self-worth, right? And so I just started pursuing being an intuitive, and I went to speak at a conference and I asked this woman across the way, she's like, we're going to be friends. I was like, totally. Why her? And not this other person like across from me that I don't care if I ever see her again. What I heard was soul language. And I just kept asking those questions. And before long, I had this way to put to words what we deep down know inside of us. And when we have those words, it's easier to connect. It's easier to talk about. It gives us a frame of feeling safe to reveal ourselves. And I think that's what introverts are so in their internal landscape, that they have a hard time feeling safe being vulnerable. And I think that keeps a lot of us not from being very clear with our voice. So I think I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. So you basically felt that need inside yourself of something more and then figured out what it was and how to help others do the same thing.
Yeah.
So introverts do have amazing intuition usually, and that is definitely a sales superpower. They're also usually really focused on the other person and the experience that they're providing for them. So I can see why they feel forgotten or lost in that experience, because they're so focused on, is the other person, enjoying themselves, having a good time, getting value from this conversation, that they stop and think, what do I want?
When do I get to talk? What about me? Yeah. I think, and then I think that can affect sales a whole bunch, right? Because I've seen many of a spiritual renegade, that's what I call my person, like, because I'm not going to do it like anyone else does it, give away the farm in order to support that person. And then they forget to ask for the business before they get off the phone, right? I think there's this delicate balance, and I think being empathic and intuitive is amazing, but you also have to have clear energetic boundaries. And so I always have this little bitty hack for how I choose a client, which is based on the Peanuts characters. So before I get on the phone or as that person speaking, I go, okay, what Peanut character is this person energetically? And my people are Linuses and Sallys. Okay. And if they're not that energy, that's fine. I'll be present, I'll be committed. But here's the thing, I don't take the sales conversation to the next level because I know that's going to go bad. And I think so often we can get really trampled and really locked down in making that sales conversation. I never take on a Lucy. Well, I don't take a Lucy on anymore because they're always going to pull the football. I never work with the Charlie Brown because I have warrior energy and that's victim energy and I would eat it. And I don't do Woodstocks because they're just loopy crazy, right? But when you have that kind of pre-qualifier, you can be present and you can let the conversation flow and know that it's going to be naturally to the next kind of offer or thank you very much. It was so nice meeting you. Thank you for helping me, and let it go. So that's one of the systems I use as an introvert and a highly intuitive person to support that sales conversation. Another thing I always do is I wait for them to ask, which could seem nerve-wracking, but because I'm an intuitive and I'm really good at listening, right? People will naturally ask, well, how do I work with you? And that's my lead in to respond to that question.
Yeah. And I mean, you said something a while back about how introverts are naturally very curious and really good at listening. So instead of just offering everything to give to the other person, they can just ask more questions to understand them. And then you're right, have those boundaries of like, this is a fit or not a fit. And also reframing it a bit to understand that, like, when you give everything away to them, you're actually doing it a disservice to them that's not going to help them. So sometimes knowing that can help a lot too. And so before you started, did you always know you were introvert? And before you started a business, did you think it would be an asset or not?
Um, I would have never referred to myself as an introvert. I would have referred to myself as someone who was internal a lot, that I was warrior nature. Only, in the last decade has that phrase become popular and put words to, oh yeah, that's totally me. I have a friend who would say, up, it's 52 minutes, Jennifer's done. Like I would only be good for like an hour and 10 minutes when I was out, and then I would have to go home, right? I think one of the things that prevented me from, or I was concerned about, was how was I going to deal with everyone else's energy? And lucky me, I built tools for that, right? Like I was like, oh, I can figure that out. I think that's what can stop individuals from taking that leap to business, as well as the marketing and sales. It's that, oh
Yeah.
my God, I don't want to feel responsible for another person, right? that's all about energetics. And that's all about not taking responsibility for your own energy and taking on too much of another person's energy. So I think I was really focused in getting out of corporate America. That was my driving force, right? And so I thought, "Oh, I can listen, I can talk." And I was lucky enough when I gave that talk at that conference, people were lined up to talk to me. And they were asking me questions. I was like, I don't know how I can answer that, but I can answer that. And so it's a balance of understanding who you are and keep activating safety, because I think that's what introverts are always concerned about, like being safe, being vulnerable. And marketing and sales takes an ability to feel safe being vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Like, am I basically is my energy not going to be safe? I think like when I'm at this event, I mean, these 3-day events, I'm like, introverts are not putting these on. Like no introvert wants to go to a 3-day event. It sounds absolutely exhausting. And then there's those happy hours afterwards. I'm like, who are these people? Like, it
Right.
seems like a superpower to be like, yes, I have been talking to people all day and now I'm going to talk to them some more. Like I love people, but I can't imagine having that level of energy. And so keeping that energy really, knowing what drains it and what doesn't. And it sounds like you do an amazing job helping people with that. And so now, do you think of it as like, what do you think now? Do you think it's an asset or not,
Um,
being an introvert?
yeah, I really think it isn't. I mean, I think that I have become really accepting of who I am. And so when I accept every part of me, it's always, an asset. I think uh, all of my life I've been a listener. And I'm also, when I think being an introvert, I'm not so needing to engage with everyone, right? I pick my people. And I think that's really important because that qualifies my people as, wow, I do want to spend time with them. I do, listen, I can love anyone, but I like my clients. And I think that's really important. So I think it's a great asset. I worked with years with my best friend in the PR industry, and she's an extrovert and I'm an introvert. And we were a perfect team, you know, and we played off of each other in a very comedic role kind of thing. And it worked lovely. I think being an introvert, especially because I'm working with mostly introverts, right? I'm teaching them the internal landscape. I understand that. I spend most of my time with me, like really internal, deep diving. So I think it's a huge asset. And this is probably the most I've talked all day.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's a huge asset too, because, and I think this is something for anybody listening. The reason it is such a huge asset for you is that you're able to help other introverts because you are an introvert. And so any introverts going into business, that is definitely something to think about, is that you are able to offer something specialized that can help a pretty underserved group of people, and you help them in this like very specific way, that to energy, which is probably, I mean, I think it's one of the biggest things for introverts is like, I just am scared to do it because I'm going to need to sleep for a month afterwards.
Right. And that a quick tip, right? So if you have to do a conference or if you want to do a group program and you're worried about people's energy, it's really about boundaries and protecting your energy. You'll still know what everyone's feeling, but you won't participate in it. The easy hack is the Glenda the Good Witch bubble. So you remember Glenda from The Wizard of Oz, how she had that beautiful pink bubble? If you surround yourself in the pink bubble, you're going to notice what's happening in the room with your clients, the energy, what they're feeling, but you're not going to take it on as yours. It's going to hit that pink bubble and slide down. And then you'll feel like you have more energy, more vibrancy at the end of the day. You also want to keep clearing your energy throughout things. And especially at those conferences, or if you get on a call and you're like, oh my God, that person was so draining. That's the time that you have to do a quick clearing of your energy, because you're taking that energetic goo with you. And, if someone is, William Burroughs has this great line that says, if you feel like you've lost a quart of plasma after talking to someone, don't talk to them. Right? Like really listen to that. Don't keep putting yourselves or taking on clients or, associating with people that really drain your energy. And if you have to declare what's going on with your energy before you go even interact, which is meaning like, look at that central energetic channel, that energy inside of you. Is it straight? Because it should be. If it's not, ask your body to align body and soul so it's straight, and just be a little more conscious about what you're doing with your energy, and it will be much easier for you in daily life and in business as an introvert.
What I really love about so much of what you're saying is the permission not to engage with everyone, the permission to, say, that person isn't a good fit for me. And I think that's really important for anyone listening to the show, because what stops people from moving forward is that they feel like they don't have the permission to honor themselves basically as introverts, or that something negative will happen if they do that. And the opposite is true. Only positive things will happen.
Yeah.
So,
My boyfriend said this the other day, which was very profound. He's like, every time I'm worried about really hurting someone else's feelings, it's my feelings that get hurt the most. And it's really true. Like, watch what you're right. Watch what you're doing and give yourself permission. And if you feel like you have to convince yourself into something or convince yourself out of something, it's probably not aligned with you. And you're the only one that's in your business. You're putting your own energy in there. So it has to be as conscious as you can make it.
yeah, and you will thrive with that kind of intention, as opposed to the opposite, which is what every introvert is scared about, is holding them back from doing this. So, what were you most concerned about before becoming an entrepreneur?
I think I was most concerned about, what making, finding the clients, keeping the clients, making them happy. And when I gave that up, I spent a lot of time, I think. Also, I think introverts see a lot more than the normal people see, right? And so they, especially for coaches, they can go, well, I know this person needs me. And we tend to talk or try to secure clients that are not really our ideal clients. I spent a lot of time talking to a group of people that wasn't my client, that even though I could see that they needed what I had, they didn't want it. So I think I was concerned about really, could I make this a go? And, that came up for the first couple of years. And then it's like riding a bike. You go, oh, okay, so I fell down, I scraped my knee. Let's get back up on that bike. I don't think I could ever go back to having a job or answering to someone. I don't think I would be able to stomach it. And I think what introverts love is the sense of freedom that they have in creating an entrepreneurship, right? You are really free. You can create exactly what's in your head. The most important thing to remember is that you're always going to need support, and to really surround yourself with those support team members that get you, that are going to kind of hold a place where you don't have the energy to hold. So yeah, I mean, I started this business in 2008. So I think I can let go of the fact that I might not survive anymore, right?
Well, I think that that's so inspiring for everybody who's listening, like, and a very true and authentic representation of what the entrepreneurship journey looks like. And I mean, saying all of this about, giving yourself permission not to take on the wrong clients and not to engage in conferences and speaking opportunities where it's not your clientele. Like, we can say all these things, but the truth of the matter is you're probably going to make this mistake in your first few years of business. It's unavoidable. I've never known someone to avoid it just because they were warned. So also give yourself grace and permission to make these mistakes, and know hopefully you can learn from them faster, knowing what we're sharing here. And that what you're experiencing is okay. And having that firsthand experience of how to adjust to make it better, faster than maybe, Jennifer and I like took maybe a little, I mean, I didn't learn
and I
after
think,
my first client. I had a
no,
couple
right.
nightmare clients first.
Right. And I think there's a tendency to beat ourselves up, right? So, if you're noticing the signs, right? You took on, as I say, a Lucy, right? She pulled the football and now you're beating yourself up. Don't stay there. Like, get some help, meaning call a friend, call support, call the mentor, call a coach. Like, there's a tendency to stay there as an introvert and not ask for help, or not ask for support, right? Because we can figure it out. We can go internal. Like, no, you need support. The more that you ask for support, the better and the bigger your business will be, because you're opening up your receiving. It wasn't about business, but I had just a hard time receiving that. I was on a trip in Mexico with a group of people that I hardly knew, with no luggage. And we had to bring everything, towel, sheets, everything, no luggage. And I'm sitting there, was lost. I'm sitting there and
Right.
everyone was like, do you need anything? Do you? No, 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 no. 3 days. No, I don't need anything. Finally, I was like, yeah, I need a towel. And that's when my luggage showed up, right? Like, really? You're going to wait for 3 days? Like, Jen, no, you need stuff. And I think so often introverts are like, no, we don't need anything. No, you can go. That's where you get to start really utilizing your voice and making that stronger. To create an entrepreneurship, to create a business, to create legacy, you have to find your voice. And I think sometimes introverts are a little unsure how to go about finding their voice.
Yeah, I think that plays in really well to like respecting your boundaries, basically. So one of the boundaries is I can't just give and give and give and give and give. Like, I need to be able to get help in return for me to feel balanced and okay energetically. Something will feel off otherwise. And I don't know when I learned it, but I'm always like, excuse me, does anyone know? Like, I'm not the kind of person who's not going to ask somebody for directions kind of thing. Like, I'm like, somebody else knows the answer to this and I'm going to get that answer as fast as possible. And I'm
Love
truly
it.
grateful and give back. So I think as long as introverts think about how they'll give back to the person who's giving to them, it might make them feel a little more comfortable in asking. Like, you're not going to just take, you'll never just be a taker.
Right. But here's the thing. Let's do a little balance, because if everyone's doing all this giving, who's doing the receiving? Right. So I think so often when there's a misalignment of giving and receiving, we are going, well, how can I give back to you? How can I give back to you? How can I? And I remember one of the first phone calls, the woman went, no, you don't. I was like, well, you can work with this person. You can work with that person. She's like, no, no, no. I would like to work with you. And I was like, oh, like it was a shock, right? Like, oh yeah, that's why I'm in business, right? So let's just set the intention that you get to start collecting the IOUs of the universe to receive. And you already give freely. So when you give freely with your heart, you'll receive back. And I think so often we just forget to receive back because we're so used to giving in such a big way. And I broke my foot and broke my ankle in the end of October. And I had to do some major asking,
Yeah.
major asking. And the moment it like really clicked in my head was, I have a boot on my leg. It's 7 o'clock at night. It's dark. I'm downstairs. I've had to climb 3 flights of stairs downstairs, out in front of the house with the dog. And my landlord comes out and goes, why didn't you ask me to help you walk the dog? I was like, well, I don't know, Marlene. And then I got determined, and he's like, why aren't you wearing a shoe? Because I had no shoe on the other foot. I was like, I don't know. I just decided I was just going to go do it, and I couldn't ask for help. He's like, but I'm always here. You could always ask for help. And that was
Yeah.
the moment I was like, okay, I'm insane. Like it takes a lot to create a business. So as an introvert, you're going to have to ask for more help than anyone else, because you're going to still be asking for less help than you really truly need.
That's true. And it's a great distinction that like, you don't need to give back every time you take something. Like, I think that is a very important thing to highlight. And that kind of sort of weaves into sales. So it's an unavoidable thing for any entrepreneur. How did you feel about sales before you became an entrepreneur?
So it was really funny because in the business with my best friend, it was her business. I would write the proposals and I would say the numbers because I knew about PR. She was the producing part of it. And we got into an elevator after a new client signed on. And the rules were you didn't talk until you were out of the buildings. You never know, right? So we get out of the building and she goes, I cannot believe they signed for that amount of money. She goes, what made you think of that money? I was like, it was the largest number that I could think of. And she's like, but how did you do it? I go, wow, you're worth it. She's worth it, right? Because I was really selling her. But when it came to being an entrepreneur, I was like, oh,
How do I sell myself? Yeah.
Right. So there was some like starting, stopping. And then I really decided to take the attachment out of it and really went, okay, this is really not about me. It's really about, here's how I can support you and help you. If you're not the right fit, then I have to trust another person will come along. No one's the source for me but source. Everyone's just a resource. And I remember the moment where a very top business coach said to me, you know, Jen, you never have any trouble talking about the money. I really admire that about you. And I hung up the phone and I went, oh my God, look, I healed that. Look how that's changed. Right. And so it's really about taking as much attachment out of the sales process as you can, really going like really as I would say, the pass the butter voice, meaning like, this is not, you know, life or death situation. This is not about who you are on a personal level. This is just a conversation. And I think that's really helped me in sales. And also, again, I usually wait in a sales conversation for someone to go, how can I work with you? Because that means they're already thinking of it. And then I just get to be me and show up. And now, I don't know how many years I've been doing it, right? That I kind of just energetically know this person's going to be a fit or not in a different way. And then I'm like, okay, they ask, great. If they don't, great. It's really about your own personal game when it comes to sales and not who you're selling or what you're selling.
Yeah, I love the pass the butter voice. I often compare it to like a conversation about recommending what restaurant you should go to. And it's like, well, what's your budget and where are you staying and what kind of food do you like? And okay, this is the best option for you then. It sounds like you would love this, you know? So reframing that conversation so that you kind of almost forget the money part, because the money is just a byproduct of something just being a fit for a person. Then they pay for it.
Right.
Yeah. So
there's another thing that I think is key for introverts that people don't talk about is after you have that conversation, that you have to have a system down in place about how you receive that money. So you don't have to think about it, meaning, oh, I'll just send you a link. Or you could give me a credit card or blah, blah, blah. I think then introverts go, oh my God, I got to see how I want to go back and hide. Right. So if you have a process, then it goes very quickly, very easily versus, oh, great win. And let's go back into our shell. So just create a process that's easy for you, that works with you, that's actually going to create more safety in your life.
That's a very often forgotten piece. And I would recommend not sending an invoice because I think that that's like the introvert default. It's like, I'll send you the invoice. And then the person like doesn't fill it out. And then they have to be like,
yeah,
why didn't you fill it out? And that's super uncomfortable for an introvert to say like, did you, So just doing it right there with them, like, great, let's get started. Like, this is exciting.
Take that credit card right there.
Yeah, definitely. So last question, what do you recommend to other introverts considering becoming entrepreneurs?
You have to really understand why you're doing it and really make that your biggest priority. The reason why I started my company was I wanted to be of service, I wanted to help people, and I wanted freedom. And I think when you have that driving force on those days where you want to go, oh my God, do I really have to get on the phone today? I just want to stay in my fluffy slippers. And now I have to get on Zoom all the time, right? You need that big why to keep driving you forward. And that this is what I love about introverts. Their whys are so big. And so when you really focus on that big why, it can really jump over all of those icky, sticky beliefs that you have as an introvert.
I love that. I think that the why does run very deep. And I look at everything as like pros and cons. And when the thing you want is so deep for you, the bad things are worth it. Like they're not so bad that they outweigh the benefit of the result that you'll get. So that's wonderful advice. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming in and sharing your experience and, very practical, implementable, actionable advice. I hope that people feel inspired to make that move and give themselves permission to just be who they are and not pretend that they can talk to everybody, not pretend that they're, an extrovert and that they work with everyone. And Jennifer, where can people find you?
Thank you so much for having me, by the way. They can find me at soullanguage.us, and there's a lot of groovy stuff there, free stuff. And then if you're introverted or feeling really inspired, they can set up a discovery session where I'll ID one of their soul languages, and we'll do some inner transformational work.
Which could be really beneficial for somebody who wants to start a business.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And we'll see you guys. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.